Thank you so much, Christina.
All right. Thank you. It's wonderful. I'm happy to be here. It's morning my time. So wherever you are, live or recording, happy to be here with you. And I'm also really enjoying seeing some of you have your cameras broadcasting that your pets are in attendance. and um, that's one of my favorite things about Zoom yoga is seeing everyone. I always like to see the people, but the pets never fail to charm me. So welcome to you and your furries. And we've got some heart opening postures in the back bending direction on deck. And um, as per usual, please don't hesitate to modify, to substitute postures that work for you better than the ones I'm describing and instructing. I always tell students that, like I'm telling you now, we want to do yoga for ourselves and not to ourselves. And so, so much of that is I'm going to give you the responsibility for that. I teach a fairly slow paced class and I'll explain things along the way. And so if it's moving too slowly for you, I apologize in advance. And I want us to, in a sense, as we rise together, to go together in some ways. However, don't hold yourself back. If you want to do things beyond what I'm teaching, that's also completely fair game. This is a starting point of to explore your own practice together. So you don't certainly need my permission to take care of yourself, but you absolutely have my encouragement to make what I'm offering work best for you. And I think those are my preparatory talk, major talking points. All right. And we'll define some of the terms I'm going to use and we'll just go together. All right. Bring your hands together in front of your heart and rest your thumbs lightly on your sternum. With your next exhale, surrender the weight of your legs, your pelvis to the ground beneath you. So let yourself get a little heavy. And in so doing, use that encouragement to settle, to be here now. And this is the Rising Together series offering. So as you have that kind of settled, heavy quality in your legs and your pelvis and whatever's on the ground, rise up all along the front of your spine, all the way up through the top of your head. And with your thumbs, use a little downward pressure to encourage now a greater lifting up of your chest. Those simple seated instructions in some ways hold so much of the yoga practice. There's a quality of every practice and our engaged efforts to be here as we are, settled within ourselves in the moment. And yet, part of what makes us human is this aspirational quality, the longing for expansion, the endeavor to rise up, even amidst certain downward pressures, like your thumbs on your sternum, rise up. So we sit here in these opening moments in the midst of a great paradox. Be here now, accept the moment, and rise up. Engage the aspirational nature of your spirit. Let's do one Om. Inhale. Bow your head to your heart. Lower your hands to your legs. Lift your chin and open your eyes. All right, good. So I'll give all kinds of instructions. I'll do my best to define my terms and get a shared vocabulary in our short amount of time together. If you all else fails, settle, rise up, and you have the whole thing. Okay, come to all fours. bring your knees a little bit back. Getting some feedback. Hang on.
Want me to move the table?
Okay. See if that's better. All right. Take your knees a little bit wider than your hips. Bring your big toes together so that they touch. With straight arms, lift your chin up and bring your hips back to your heels. With your hands out in front of you and your head up and off the ground, just for a few more moments, push your hands down and forward. And that'll bring your hips back and down. You may also be aware that as you push down and forward, some tone comes to your lower abdomen. That push pattern will help tone some of your deep abdominal muscles. And then you've got this more active rooting, that moment of here, now, you as you are, life as it is. And then we have the rising up with your belly strong, your hips firm against your heels. Crawl your hands out in front of you to create some greater length along your torso. Then bow your head to your heart, rest your forehead on the ground. Breathe here. With your next inhale, come up to all fours. And then exhale. Settle. Anchor your hands. Even here, move your upper back in right between your two shoulder blades. Soften there. So that even a little bit of settling occurs in your upper back for a moment. We'll talk more about that as we go along. Grip the floor. Draw your hands towards your knees to move your shoulder blades away from your ears and lift your chin up just a little bit. They're putting a little back bend into place, telling our back things are coming. We're going to go to down dog from here. Turn your toes under, lift your hips up and back. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog pose. Take your feet to the side edges of your sticky mat. Then come up high onto the balls of your feet and bend your knees. You get your heels really quite high, like feet as vertical as you can. I'll give you a little bit more power to tilt your pelvis up, your sitting bones up towards the ceiling. Now, grip the floor with your finger pads. Lift your armpits up away from the floor. With an exhale, soften right between your two shoulder blades as your upper thoracic spine. Move that into your body. Then push your arms down and forward. High on the balls of your feet, straighten your legs. Exhale, reach your heels back and down. Good, solid, smooth inhale, smooth exhale. That's the best kind of game to play. If you get lost in any of the instructions, go to your breath. Poses will work on you. Okay, walk your hands back to your feet. Bend your knees for a moment. And once again, lift your chin and reach your fingertips out in front of you. Push your hands down and forward. Draw your heels. This is like an isometric action. You draw your heels back and then up towards your sitting bones, and that's going to tone your hamstrings. Firm your abdomen, slowly straighten your legs. Then pressing your legs back, do a little itsy bitsy spider crawl your hands forward so you get that length through your spine happening. All right, walk your hands back to your feet, then bring your hands to your hips, your shoulder blades toward one another. Lift your chin and come on up to standing. All right, here we made it so far. And some of you are still in class. It's wonderful. You take your hand like a C shape. I'm going to come a little closer to my camera, right to the very top of your throat and swallow a couple times. And you'll feel this little bone that bounces up and down. That's your hyoid bone. And when I was talking about the top of your throat, that's what I'm referring to, because we're going to do a lot of this work to open up our shoulders, open up our heart by aligning the head, our head and our shoulder and our neck and our shoulders. So it's not just heart and shoulders, it's kind of head and heart connection. Terminology, I won't get bogged down in this, but it's going to repeat. Top of your arm, head of your arm bone, upper arm. I'm going to use those interfaced a lot. So here, interlace your hands back behind you. And as you inhale, remember in that opening seated work, we settled, exhale. Then we lifted, inhale. And even we had our thumbs on our sternum. So lift your chest. Then with your chin somewhat parallel to the ground, take that top of your throat back, your highway bone back, and move the head of your arm bone back. So you get a big opening across the front of your chest and shoulders. We'll add a little bit more to that as we go along. Then release your hands, take your arms out in front to your sides. Put weight into your legs. It's the rooting down. Lift up through your chest. Turn your arms out and stretch your arms up. That's Urdhva Hastasana, upward arms. You can keep your arms shoulder width apart, absolutely fair game. Next stage would be to interlace your hands and extend your forefinger and stretch up more. Good. Lower your arms. All right, so going back to that first one, we take our shoulder blades towards one another, our arm bones back, we get some contraction, some power behind the lift of our heart. I'm gonna tell you move your shoulder blades slightly down to get a bigger lift of your chest. So we're adding on. Interlace your hands back behind you, and don't worry, it's gonna repeat, and you'll get what you get, and we'll move on. It'll be awesome. Okay, put weight into your stakes aren't that high. Put weight down into your legs. Then lift up, rise up. With the top of your throat, move it back. Take the head of your arm bones back. Now, right here in the roof of your mouth, I'm calling your upper palate. Take that back. It'll lift your chin, but it's not just lift your chin up. It's like we make a kind of bend in your palate back, then shoulder blades down. And when you get those two things together, you'll feel some of your lower thoracic spine come on board. You get a greater lift of your chest. All right, good. And then come back to center. Take your arms out to your sides. One more of these. All right. Lift your chest, turn your arms, stretch up. What we're looking to, when we take our head back in any of these poses, interlace your hands, extend your forefingers, stretch up. If you just lift your chin, a little anatomy here, if you just lift your chin, it's just moving right at the C1, right at the very top of your neck where your neck becomes your head. But if you take your palate back, you're encouraging an even curve through your cervical spine. And over time, that curve should just follow the bend in your back, not be a big, serious movement. It's just natural curves to the spine, full, even curves, not necessarily natural. Okay, good. Lower your arms. Very nice. All right, come to the back edge of your mat. You're gonna hear, bend your knees. We're gonna go from this back edge of our mat, walking out to a downward facing dog pose. Take your finger, but we're gonna do it step by step and I'll talk you through it. Push your hands down and forward. Draw your heels back and up. Firm your abdomen and straighten your legs. As you press your thighs back, get your legs as straight and strong as you can. If your low back is tender or you have stiffer in your hamstrings, backs of your legs, totally fine. You can keep your knees bent. It'll work. Crawl your hands out a little bit in front of you at a time. And now we're going to make our way to downward facing dog pose. Put your palms of your hands down, itsy bitsy spider. Crawl your hands forward. Pause, then press your legs back. Crawl forward. Press your legs back, crawl forward. When you get out to a nice long dog, push your arms down and forward. Draw your side ribs towards your pelvis to create greater length through your spine. And press your thighs back. All right, good. Lower your knees to the floor. Then walk your hands out in front of you, coming up onto your fingertips. All right, with your fingertips down, you can look in the screen if you want a little visual here. You press your fingertips down, lift your armpits up. Then remember that work of your palate back. Move your palate back, your throat back, your hyoid bone back. Then right between your two shoulder blades, move that part in. Your roof of your mouth, your back of your throat, take your palate back, and now move your shoulder blades away from your ears. You put a back bend into place here. Keep your belly strong, particularly if you're quite loose in your lumbars. You're going to really bolster and support your lumbar spine with some strength on the front. You can stay up here. There's plenty of work to do. Or next stage, you bring your chest and your chin to or toward the floor. If you need a more moderate form, you take your knees back behind your hips or put a block underneath your chest. Anahasana is the heart chakra pose. All right, whether you're up high, you got a block there, or you're got your chest on the ground, take a breath or two. And then slide forward onto your abdomen. Stretch your legs out behind you and interlace your hands back behind your back. Rest your forehead on the ground for a moment. Press your toenails down. Lift your kneecaps up. Press your pubic bone down. All of that's your anchoring, strengthening, foundational work. That be here now as it is. Then we have the aspirations of the heart and spirit. Move your throat back. That'll lift your forehead off. Your upper arms back. Press your palate back, which will lift your chin, and move your shoulder blades slightly down. All right. Press your toes down, knees up, pubic bone down. Now lift your head and shoulders up. Shalabhasana variation. Come up, rise up, up, and then lower down. Okay, come up on your right forearm and bend your left leg. Take your right thumb out in front of you and then keep your thumb up, bring it out to the side, hop over your foot to grab the inside of your foot. So another big shoulder stretch, kick your foot back. And as you kick your left leg back, push your right forearm down and forward, which will lift your chest a little bit more. Okay, that's a really pretty good stage. You can stay there. Next stage is bend your left elbow. Slide the palm of your hand around the top of your foot and bring your heel to your buttocks. And hey, look, I know it's not my first rodeo, y'all. I know that you can tell yourself, bring your heel to your hip, and it doesn't always happen. So all of these instructions that's our direction. That's kind of our aim, but it's not an all or nothing game, which is really awesome. Meaning, if you bring your heel to any degree closer towards your hip, it's going to be useful. You don't have to force anything. All right, other side. Come up on your left forearm, reach your right arm out. Take your right arm out to the side and then bending your right leg, hop over your foot and grab the inside of your foot. All right, push your left arm down and forward so you rise up. Kick your foot back. One-legged bow variation. You might stay there or bend your right arm, slide the palm of your hand around the top of your foot and bring your right heel into your hip. All right, good. And then lower down. Let's go to the first side while we're down here. Place your right forearm down, bend your left leg, take your leg out to the arm out to the side and back behind you. Pressing your right forearm down, lift your chest up, bend your left kick back. Let's do that stage first. Some of you will just kick straight back. Some of you on this second go around will even be able to press your pelvis down and lift your left leg to any degree off the ground. You could say, some of you, main thing is you're kicking back, roll your arm out. All right, next game. Bring your heel to your buttocks, the palm of your hand to the top of your foot. Now, move. your left shoulder blade toward your spine. And next stage of this is to turn your hand around your foot so that you wrap your fingers around your toes. If your foot's not very close to your hip, that's going to be pretty hard to do. So you're going to be in that first stage of the continuum, moving in towards your pelvis. Okay, other side. Come up on your left forearm, reach your right arm back, kick back. If you've got a good kick back, feeling okay, roll your right arm out a little bit more and go for a lift of your leg. If that bothers your low back, put your leg back down. If it bothers your knee, put your leg back down. If it bothers your mental state, put your leg back down. All right, thigh stretch. Bend your right elbow. Slide the palm of your hand around the top of your foot. Bring your right heel into your hip. You can stay there. Main key pieces is working that bend of your leg. To go deeper, you take your right shoulder blade toward your spine. Roll your forearm in to wrap your hands around the top of your foot. Good. And then release. While we're down here, we got one more thing to do. Place your forehead down. We'll do another stage of another version of Shalabhasana. Interlace your hands around your back. And pressing your toenails down, lift your kneecaps up. That tones your quadriceps. Press your pelvis down. Now, bend your elbows out to the sides and move your hyoid bone back. That's the very top of your throat back so your forehead comes off the ground. Move your shoulder blades towards one another. That'll take your arm bones back. All right, now take your palate back to lift your chin more. Move your shoulder blades away from your ears. Then lift up. Lift your head and shoulders up, 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 up. Keep coming up. Coming up. Okay, good enough. Lower down. Place your hands by the sides of your chest. Come up to all fours. Then downward facing dog pose from here. Turn your toes under, lift your hips up and back. Adho Mukha Svanasana. All right, good. Lower your knees to the floor. And if your knees are tender or, touching the ground is uncomfortable, you can put a blanket down, or sometimes you have a thin sticky mat and a hard floor, you need padding. Make sure you do all those things whether I'm telling you to or not. All right, from our kneeling position, take your right foot forward. So we have a few lunging variations, and if you want something a little bit more vigorous, you can do all these from down dog. You can toss in some chaturangas and vinyasas and have a heyday. All right, so I'm going slow, and we'll work for depth through that slow, mindful approach. Here, you can be slow and mindful in your flow too. It's not a problem. So here, with your hands on your hips, lunge into your front leg. Most conservative position for these deep lunges is your right knee directly over your right heel. So start with that. You do your right knee over your heel. Then, like you just did in Shalabhasana, press your left toenails into the ground. It's going to help tone the whole front of your thigh. Draw your left knee to the right side of your sticky mat, and that's going to firm your inner thigh. Firm your left buttocks. All right, now take your arms out to your sides. Roll your upper arms out and stretch your arms up over your head. Interlace your hands. Extend your forefinger. Stretch up. It's our basic situation here. With an exhale, sit to any degree deeper. Anchor. That's our be here now. You as you are, life as it is. Then reach up, rise up, lift up. All right, good. Come on up. Other side. One of my favorite things about yoga practice, whether it's asana, meditation, or study of any kind, is really how much it holds so many paradoxical aspects of who we are in mind and how reality is. So there's acceptance of the moment. There's let's work for more expansion, and they're both valid parts of however we find ourselves. They live together. So that's same way we root down, we rise up. All right, so first stage is your knee over your ankle. Then go bring your awareness to your back leg. Press those toenails down. That's your anchor. Draw your right knee to the left. Firm your right buttocks. Take your arms out to your side, roll your arms out, stretch up. If the overhead arm work, if you're not used to a lot of it and you get tension in your upper traps or your neck, you can go wider with your arms. If you need to just take your hands down, do those things. Interlace your hands, extend your forefingers, stretch up. Then, with an exhale, surrender your weight here, now. Then, rise up, 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 up. Use your arms to pull yourself up. Come on up. Lower your arms, switch legs. Take your right foot out in front of you. So I mentioned that your knee over your ankle is a very conservative position for these lunges. So some of you will have the capacity to be less conservative, meaning you can take these where your right sitting bone comes even more deeply towards your right heel. It's more flexion in your ankle, it's more flexion in your knee, it's deeper flexion in your hip, and it's way more demand on your thigh. So more is more, and less more is less, in which case less is more. So you can stay with that first go around of your knee directly over your ankle. You'll be doing lots of good there. The deeper that you do sit into your front leg, the more you can bring your right knee slightly out to the side as opposed to straight out from your hip. That'll make room for your pelvis to descend, sort of go with the deep flexion of your hips. So this is a bigger stretch here. And if it bothers your low back, your knee, your hip flexors, go to the first stage. All right, interlace your hands back behind you. Press your left toenails into the ground. Your left knee to the right. Firm your left buttocks. Push your right foot down. Tone your abdomen. It's like a checklist, each pose. Then take the hyoid bone back, the head of your arm bones back. Take your palate back. That'll lift your chin more. Move your shoulder blades away from your ears. It's going to deepen your back bend. You're in charge of how deeply you go. With your exhale, bring your pelvis to any degree more forward. With your inhale, lift your chest. Coil, lift up, and to any degree, coil back. Good. Come upright. Second side. Over time, one of the best things for our back bends is, well, a lot of times our lumbar spine takes the bend. And when we get that sense that we're cramming, jamming, or slamming, you have to go, oh, wait, rise up. Okay, we got to get the length back. And it's usually that there's something not moving up above or below the lumbar spine, and it's doing more than its share of load-bearing work. So conservative position, ankle underneath your knee. Less conservative, your knee slightly out. And a deeper sit. It's up to you. You make those choices. You can be somewhere between those two that I'm describing as well. Interlace your hands back behind your back. Press your toenails down. Draw your right knee to the left. Firm your right buttocks. Tone your abdomen. Push your left foot down and then inhale, lift up. Take your throat back. Take your arm bones back. Take your palate back and your shoulder blades down. With your exhale, surrender your weight, settle, root down, come forward. With your inhale, rise up through your spine, up through your chest. And when you get up, 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 if you can go back, do it by drawing your shoulder blades slightly down and lifting your front ribs up. Good. Come on up. One more of these. We're going to add a quad stretch like we did on the ground. Then we'll come up to standing and do a few things. Take your right leg out. We're going to increase what's happening on the back leg. So if you're sitting quite deep on the last one, you may need to come up just a little bit. You may not be able to go so deep with a quad stretch. You can also repeat all of this with your foot down on the ground. Okay. Take your left thumb out in front of you, out to the side. Bend your left leg, grab hold of your foot. Kick back. All right. You might stay there. Next stage, bend your left elbow, slide the palm of your hand around the top of your foot, bring your heel toward your hip. You might stay there, particularly if your foot is not up by your hip. It's going to be hard to do the next piece. So you just stay at the stage and you'll benefit from it. Next piece, you turn the palm of your hand on around so you grab hold of your toes. All right. You support with your right hand on your right thigh will take some of the intensity out of your back leg. So you can take your right hand, pull your right leg forward, and get a little lift. Next stage, and they're all good stages, is take your right arm out in front of you. Then lift your arm up, move your throat back, your arm back. Then stretch your arm up. If that bothers too much, stretch in your left knee, too many strain in your low back, put your hand back down on your thigh. Okay, well, let's stay another breath. Sit a little deeper. That's your surrender. Then your aspiration. Rise up, lift up, reach up. Okay, good. Other side. This is so important. If you have any, if you're in the camp with me as what I call us recovering perfectionistic types, then I think one of the benefits of this idea that I'm presenting, you can take it if it works for you, you can leave it behind if not, is that when we have these aspirational qualities, these ways we want to expand into the more fullness of who we are, if we start that from, it's also okay, then we can do all of that expansion, and is referenced in a sense of acceptance, which is really different than referenced in, oh, everything is wrong, and this grappling to always improve. They live together. They can inform one another. Sometimes things are not okay where they are, though. I'm clear on that. I'm not suggesting otherwise. All right, so just working a theme. Let's do second. Last one, then we're coming up to standing. Take your right arm back, grab hold of your foot. Even if they're not okay with us how they are still how they are. That's kind of the idea. Kick back. Settle. All right, you got that. Next, you may stay there just kicking back, or you might decide you put your foot back on the ground. Then bring your heel into your hip. Turn your hand around the top of your foot. Your left hand on your left thigh will give you support, and it bears some of the weight, which takes some of the intensity out of the thigh stretch. So you can always go back to that if you do this next phase and it's too much. Elevate your arm and your shoulder. Move your throat back, the head of your arm bone back. Take your palate back, which will lift your chin some, and then lift your arm up. Exhale, sit a little deeper. Inhale, rise up. All right, good. Lower your knees, downward facing dog pose. Start in all fours. Turn your toes under, lift your hips up and back. Take your feet nice and wide to the side edges of your mat. You don't really have to do that, but one of the things is if you have stiffnesses or limitations in your hips or the backs of your legs, the wider distance gives us a little bit more space across the back of our legs, back of our pelvis, which gives us a little bit more capacity to really take our thighs back, to press them well back. When you can do that and you push your arms down and forward, you get more length between along your spine. You get a sense of traction. All right, walk your hands back to your feet. Place your hands on your hips, your shoulder blades towards one another. Lift your chin, inhale, and come on up. All right, come back to the center of your mat. We got a crescent pose here. And we've been working our arms in the overhead plane, our arms in the back plane, to get some mobility happening in the region of our heart. All right, so we're going to go to the side now. We've opened up some in our chest. We've done a lot of work to open up the fronts of our thighs. We're kind of connecting in here to open up the sides more. Take your arms out to your sides. Turn your arms. Stretch your arms up. Interlace your hands, extend your forefinger. If both arms overhead is too much for you, when you get into it, you can take one hand down on your hip and give yourself support. It'll work just fine like that too. Put weight into your heels, firm your legs, lift your chest. Press your pelvis to the, I'm going to mirror you, pelvis to the left and tilt your torso to the right. All right, lift your toes for a moment. That'll give and bring some weight into your heels. That's your rooting. Set your toes back down. Now lift your kneecaps up, firm your hips, tone your abdomen. Nudge the left side of your pelvis slightly forward so your two hips are in one line. Bring the right side of your shoulder blade, your right shoulder forward. Now rise up, stretch out. Pull your arms away from you and come down. Then slowly, inhale, come on up. Let's go to the other side. Press your pelvis to the right, tilt your torso to the left. Exhale. Lifting your toes, put weight back into your heels. Spread your toes, put them back down. Make your leg muscles strong. Firm your buttocks and tone your abs. Nudge your right hip forward. Your left shoulder blade forward. Keeping your legs and your abdomen strong, like you had two thumbs on your sternum. Rise up from within. Pull your arms away from you and come down. Inhale, come on up. Lower your arms. Okay, now separate your feet hip distance apart. You don't have to turn, I'm just showing you from the side. And we've been doing all this behind the back work. You take your hands on your hips like they're in your back pockets. All right. Now, we're going to do a standing back arch. With your heels heavy, bring your pelvis forward. When you bring your pelvis forward, you may find right away that you get a little bit of an awakening, if you will, a little discomfort in your lower back. That's key to you get out of that with more lift. Press your hands down, then rise up, 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 crawl up inside the pose as you push your pelvis down. And that might be where you stay because that's a real key thing. Pelvis forward, heels down, pelvis forward, lift up. Lift your chin out of your chest. Now we're going to use the same thing we've been doing. Take the top of your throat back. That's your hyoid bone back. Move your arm bones back and your shoulder blades toward one another. Then the roof of your mouth, I'm pointing to it on the screen, your palate back and your shoulder blades away from your ears. Pressing your hands down, lift your chest. Up, 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 up. Coil, back, 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 back. Inhale, come on up. Tone your belly. Take your hands to the tops of your hips and push down right at the top of your pelvis. And then as you had, and then lift up as though someone had their hand on your low belly and your sacrum. You get a little length to your lower back. All right, good. And then release. Now, Utkatasana. We need a more moderate form. You keep your feet hip distance apart and your arms out in front of you. Take your arms out to your sides. Turn your arms out. Stretch your arms up. And you can start with all the things I described and then back it out a little bit as fair game. All right, we'll do this. So interlace your hands, extend your forefingers, stretch up. And then with an exhale, sit deep into your legs. Push your feet into the ground and forward, and that'll put weight into your heels. Tone your abdomen. Then, like we were just doing in that back arch, lift your chest. Keep your belly strong, lift your chest, lift your chest, lift your chest. Get as upright as you can. Pull your arms. Okay, good enough. Stand up and lower your arms. All right, very good. Come down to kneeling. If you kneel on your left leg and you want to blanket down, I've got my left toes also kind of turned under like on the ball of my foot. But if you feel more stable with your toenails down, that's fine. We're doing a variation of a pose called Parigasana. It's called gate pose. And you take your right heel, line it up with your left knee. Eventually, it's a straight leg pose like that, and your foot turns slightly in. So you can do it as a straight leg pose, just harder. Okay. So if you want more challenge, straighten your leg. If you want less, bend it. There's plenty to do. Firm your left buttocks. Bring the side of your pelvis forward. Lift your chest and turn your arms. Stretch your arms up. If you reach up, interlace your hands, extend your forefinger, go up. It's like kneeling crescent pose. And if you need a support, you put your forearm on your thigh. All right, tilt to the side. I know I talk a lot and I give all these options and all these instructions, but you get used to it. Okay, bring your pelvis forward, tone your abdomen. Keep your left buttock strong, and now bring your right shoulder blade forward. So you're aiming your two shoulders in one line like we did in standing. And with a strong abdomen, lift your chest. Pull your arms, come down. When you go down a little bit more, you tend to have that shoulder. So we're going to come back. So we're going to one more time. Press the left side of your pelvis forward. Firm your abdomen. Bring your right shoulder blade forward. Lift your chest. Pull your arms. Exhale, come down. Come on up. Lower your arms. So this is big strengthening, stretching work for your sides. Other side. These muscles, as you go to the side, they're doing a lot of weight bearing work and they're lengthening. It's a difficult pose. It looks looks innocent enough, but my experience of it is just plenty of hard work there. Firm your buttocks. Bring this part open as you can, like almost like it's working towards those Anjaneyasana lunges. Lift your chest, turn your arms out, stretch up. Interlace your hands, extend your forefingers, reach up. Let's go to the side with an exhale, tilt to the left. You can support this whole pose too by pushing your left foot down and away from you. And that'll keep your right side more vertical. Bring your left shoulder blade forward. Firm your right buttocks, tone your abs, lift your chest, and pull your arms. Come down. You can take your forearm to your thigh if you need support, or go one more time, get as square as you can towards the front plane. Bring your left shoulder blade forward, your chest up, pull your arms, come down. Good, come on up. Lower your arms. All right, so we did a standing back arch, and we can do that same work here. And some of you will keep your hands on your hips. Some of you will go to Ustrasana. And I want to give one more piece that I know it's a barrage of instructions, and some of them are familiar to you, and some of them, and to some of you, might be speaking a language you haven't heard, but you might have heard a lot of this in another language. So usually just saying a lot of the same stuff differently. When we take our shoulders toward one another and down, we're starting to activate not just our upper back, but this region in our lower back. And I'm going to loosely call this region like our kidneys. And when we're going back, I'm going to say move your kidneys in towards your spine. So that's medially, and then in towards the front of the room. And the idea is, so it's in and then in, is to fire these muscles in our middle back to get even more back bend. And I'll talk you through that. And if that feels obscure, don't worry. Do the things that make sense, and you pick up the other pieces as you go along. All right, turn your toes under. Unless you're a very deep back bender, you're ready to go, you can take your toenails down, balls of your feet under, a little bit more moderate form. Press your knees towards one another, squeeze them. So that's going to get your inner thighs strong. Bring your pelvis forward to extend your hips. With your hands on your hips, push down and lift your chest, rise up, 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 crawl up, even like you could take your, like a step up inside each rib. All right, you might stay there. This is a lot. Then take the top of your throat back, your hyoid bone back. Take your arm bones back. Take the roof of your mouth back, palate back. your shoulder blades down. You might stay there. Next, right in that middle back region I was describing, draw your kidneys in and in towards the front of your body. Idea is it'll lift your chest, your ribs even more. You can stay there with your hands on your hips or bring your hands to your ankles. Then push your feet into the ground, bring your pelvis forward, lift your chest up, 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 up. Bring your hands to your hips. Come on up. All right. Sit for a moment. It's a big, long topic, more than we have time to discuss in an hour-long Saturday class together. But this idea of taking our head back over time. If you feel like if you have a neck injury, you can do all this stuff with your chin to your chest and not taking your head back at all. Over time, our head will, if you get that bowling ball feeling, a lot of times it's because you're just lifting the chin and your head is on its just sort of axis up there, just dropping back. But the more that you get a bend from your lower back, your middle back, your upper back, all the way through your head will just follow the curve of your spine, and it won't even feel so much like you're taking it back or dropping it back as much as it's going with the pose. But if your chest isn't moving much, and you take your head back, your head's going to feel real heavy. So the big work is this lift and this upper back bend. All right, so next stage would be your toenails down, or you can, if balls of your feet. We're going to do one more of these asanas. Place your hands on your hips. Then we'll do a down dog. Then I got a couple more things and we'll call it. All right, draw your legs towards one another. It's good, strong midline work. Pressing your toenails down, bring your pelvis forward. Press your hands down and lift up. This might be your stepping off place, because this is strengthening and clarifying in and of itself. Then take your throat back. Take your arm bones back. Take your palate back and your shoulder blades down. Right in that middle back region, tone your kidneys in and in to go up, coil back. You can stay there or bring your hands to your ankles. You need your toes turned back under, or you just need to put your hands back on your hips, do those things. Whatever you got, push your toenails down, bring your pelvis forward, lift your chest up, 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 coil back. Place your hands on your hips, inhale, come on up. Walk your head, place your hands down on all fours, step back, downward facing dog pose. This kind of approach that I'm describing is over time, hopefully helping us find, lower your knees to the floor, find strength in the back bends. And you may find over time what you're looking for is your muscles can get quite strengthened, but the spine, we want the spine not to feel compressed, but we want those muscles to be quite contracted. And it's a bit of an art form, and many of you are quite good at it. And some of you are all in different stages of it, in different capacities. All right, so you go back to this lunge, take your right foot out in front of you. And you're going to go from whatever stage you felt was good for you with your right knee over your ankle, or in a much, in a little deeper situation. Okay. We put some of that pieces together. We have our arm and a back plane. So you can hold onto your right thigh, take your left arm back, grab hold of your foot. And you might stay there. Next, slide your foot into the crook of your elbow. And you might stay there. Because it's a lot. Okay, now, next piece for your left arm is to point your fingertips straight up. And that part is its own stage. Bring your pelvis forward. And now with your left kidneys, go, both kidneys actually, let's go in, but particularly on the left, in and in. That's going to get you facing front. Then take your right arm up. Lengthen along your side, take your throat back, pull your arm bone back. You might stay there. Next stage, arm up. You might stay there. Next stage, bend your right arm behind your head. You might stay there. There's no need to touch. You got a big tricep stretch on your right side, big quad stretch on your left side, big back bend in place. With your exhale, bring your pelvis forward, lift your chest up. Many of you will be able to clasp your arms. You got a mermaid pose. Clasp your hands. If not, it's not dependent on that. Then stretch your right arm up. Take your left foot down. Come back up to kneeling and vertical and go up, 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 up. Take the back bend out of it. Take your navel back. Reach up. Okay, other side. You know, maybe it sounds like it's definitely a broken record, my style of teaching. you might. Each stage is it's its own pose. And so when we start to put the stages together, when you have one, it'll start to lead over time to the next one. And that's one of the best ways to modify really is the stage of the pose where you can follow the instructions, you can breathe, you can get that sense of clarity within yourself. All right, pelvis forward. All right, here we are. Bend your right leg, grab hold of your foot. You might stay there because that is a lot. Slide your right arm along your foot. Bring your foot right up into the crook of your elbow. I'm going to turn my position so you can see what's happening there. Next stage, point your fingertips up towards the sky. Even here, pelvis forward, create a back bend, moving your right kidneys in and in. Then take your left arm up, move your throat back, your arm bone back, your upper arm up. You might stay there. There's a lot happening. Next, bend your left arm. If you can grab your hands, you grab your hands. If you can't, bring your pelvis more forward, your back bend deeper into your chest to any degree. Good enough. Take your left arm up. Release your right foot. Come up to kneeling so you're a little bit more vertical. Lift up, 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 up. All right, lower your arms. Come to all fours. Yep. Downward facing dog pose. Push down and forward. Press your thighs back. Create length. Lower your knees to the floor. Bring your big toes together so that they touch. Bring your hips back to your heels. You wait a moment before going to the full child's pose and keep your head up for a moment. You can do a little bit more intentional abdominal strengthening to support the lengthening of the lumbar spine after all of that bending. So you push your hands down and forward. Tone your navel in towards your spine. Anchor your hips to your heels. Then crawl your hands out and rest your forehead and your nose on the ground. Stretch out onto your abdomen. And then roll over onto your back. Press your left thigh down into the ground. So straighten your left leg and press your left leg down. Then bring your right leg up and interlace your hands behind your right thigh. Push your right thigh into your interlaced hands with your right leg bent. That's stage one. This isn't so much a stretch for a lot of us as much as it is a communication to your thighs to move back. And it's when you get your thighs to move back, they tell your pelvis that they're at home, and then your pelvis tells your lower back to relax and settle. You can stay there with your right leg bent or straighten it. And it's not, again, we're not trying to do a massive hamstring stretch on this. Is a little bit more in the bones. Switch legs. Press your right thigh down, bend your left leg, interlace your hands behind your left thigh, and push your left thigh into your interlaced hands. So do my best for these instructions to match up to my current understanding of how the body moves, and to have these instructions, although there's a lot of them, to be kind of like a checklist of do this, do this, do this, keep that. And it might sound picky at times. Straighten your left leg. But the idea is when we do this, do this, do this, do this, we're creating a pathway from between our mind and our body. And it's like shining a little light of awareness inside our body and turning parts of our body on so they can support the shape that we're asking them to make. Place your left foot on the floor, cross your right ankle on your left thigh. Using the strength of your left leg, fold your right leg closer into you. Thread your hands through the middle of your legs. Some of you would be able to just grab your pant leg or your fantastic Kira Grace tights you have on. And if you can grab behind your left thigh, great, or grab around the front of your left shin. And if you don't have some fantastic Kira Grace tights on, get yourself some. There's my commercial. I don't think y'all need to be sold on that, though. I certainly don't. So things underneath the surface of the instructions is creating this pathway between mind and body to open up a pathway to our heart. And not just the heart of our emotions, which get pretty rocked around these days, right? We're up, we're down, we're scared. But in the yoga tradition, they talk about the heart with a capital H. Release that, place your right foot down on the ground, and it's synonymous with the spirit, really, this place of expanded awareness. Would be we might consider it a muscle of spiritual awareness as opposed to a muscle that pumps the blood. With the strength of your right leg, fold your legs in. Thread your hands, grab what you can grab, your tights, the back of your right thigh, or the front of your left shin. So we can do these asanas. My opinion, perspective is we can do these asanas for all of the benefits they give us physically. And we can also invite ourselves into a deeper mind-body connection and into a connection with that place of clear, expanded seeing. That's an invitation. You can say yes or no. Okay, release. Bring your knees together, your feet apart, and your hands to the region of your heart. Invite yourself just 1 or 2 breaths deeper than the heart of your feeling state into what's underneath that expanse of your own spirit within. Bring your hands down by your sides, palms face up. If your back feels tender after all of that work, you can keep your knees together and your feet apart like you have them. Or if you can rest for a moment with your legs straight, do a Shalabhasana together before we close. I'll be quiet for a moment, promise. Rest. If you're resting well and you want to continue to do so, please stay with your rest. Or slowly and carefully roll to one side and make your way back to seated. Bring your hands together in front of your heart. We started class with very simple seated instructions of surrender your weight. Rise up. Create a gentle downward pressure with your thumbs, and against that pressure, lift your chest. Most of you are not new to practice, and so you know that this work on our mats doesn't solve all the problems in our personal lives, in our relational lives, and certainly not in the life of our society. But it does give us instructions about how to face it. See it for what it is. That's the moment. Reach for what's highest in terms of possibility. And even when there's downward pressure on your heart, even when it feels hard, keep lifting your heart. Keep asserting the power of your own spirit. So may this practice, may our ongoing efforts help each one of us to feel into our lives with greater clarity, to reach for what's highest, and no matter what's happening, to remember the power of our hearts, so that this work empowers, encourages, and inspires us to work for what's good, possible, and just. Namaste. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure
Thank you
to be
so
here
much,
with
Christina.
you. If you have questions for me, I'm happy to take questions. If you made it through this class, I just appreciate your participation and attendance. It's a barrage of information, so hopefully some of it sticks and was useful to you.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Beautiful, clear instructions.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I know.
Thank you, guys. It's
We'll
lovely
See
to
you
see
next
you.
week, everyone.
Hey, y'all, keep the faith out there.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much for
Christina.
class.
Have a good day and a good week.